Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast. I'm your host, Dan from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel, and this episode is brought to you by PCBWay. More about that a little bit later on. I have to once again apologize for my voice. On the last episode, I was losing it, and on this episode, I think I know why. So I am just at the very tail end of a cold, which couldn't have come at a worse time because I am just at the tail end of the busiest time of my year, which is essentially tire season and tax season. I think I'll be okay very shortly. Hopefully, I'll get full use of my voice back. I kind of speak for a living. So yeah, let's just hope that that all comes right back. Moving on to our first order of business. One of the Simple Electronics podcast's guests, Carl the Pumpkin Man, just successfully hosted his pumpkin jam. For those of you who don't know, Carl the Pumpkin Man was on the Simple Electronics podcast a little while ago as a guest, and he was talking about the fact that he wanted to do a 3D modeling jam. Just to clarify, a jam is essentially from the programming world. It's where you get a whole bunch of programmers and you give them at the last second a theme, and then they, program a game or a program to accomplish that specific task. And it's all done on a really tight time frame. And the whole point of the tight time frame is to, get the best thing that you can possibly get out of the limited time. Essentially, the time is sort of to try to let perfection get out of the way of finishing a project. And I believe that's exactly what Carl was going for in his jam. His jam lasted 48 hours. It was worldwide, and he actually got quite a few participants, which is really nice. So he set off with the theme of coin. So I think coins or coin design was sort of the theme of it. And he had a whole bunch of people submit designs all within the 48 hours. And he actually printed out everything that was submitted, which is pretty cool. I will leave a link in the description below where you can go check out his YouTube video where he talks about all this. I think it's super interesting. And I think that some of the ambition from the coin designers was very commendable. Like, these are not simple designs, and that people have, challenged themselves to create and post, and it's been done, which is awesome. So yeah, I'll let you check his video out. You should always go check out the original creator. But I really want to congratulate Carl on the success of an event. And he teases that maybe next year he wants to do it again, maybe this time with sponsorship. So for those of you who don't know, the first place prize, which was judged by him, was awarded $40 or $40 equivalent of store credit on, I believe, on Printables, which is the Prusa store. I don't remember. I did watch the video a little bit earlier today. So he went out of pocket to give money to the community to do this pumpkin jam, which I'm sure a lot of people have, come out of their shell and, learned. I wanted to participate, but unfortunately, I was right at the end of my really busy time. Like, I was working on taxes and I was working on cars, like I was telling you, and I had this cold, so I really needed some time to rest. And wrestling with Fusion 360 on a 48-hour deadline was not something that I wanted to do. So on the next one, I definitely want to participate if the timing is better. And for those of you who want to check them out, go check them out and stay in touch with them, because I'm sure this sort of event is going to happen again. It's a great opportunity to challenge yourself and learn new skills. So that brings me to two ideas I have for the electronics community. Like, we can learn a lot of stuff from Carl's pumpkin jam. First things first, I think it would be really good to have a community event, maybe like a month-long event, because not everyone can participate on such short notice, but potentially a long event where we have a theme picked sort of at random, which is really nice because services like ChatGPT or whatever can pick some sort of subject at random. And then the goal would be to make, or have a concept of, and then design, and then build, and then publish a project centered around that theme. And maybe the added caveat that you can only use the things that are lying in your workshop already. That means you do not order absolutely anything for this event. So essentially, let's just say it would start on June 1st, and this is just an idea for illustrations purpose. And you sign up, and then on June 1st, you get an email or, some web page is unlocked, and the theme would be cookies, just an example. And then you have to make some sort of electronics project on the theme of cookies. Now, it could be anything. You could etch a circuit board at home and have LEDs representing chocolate chips on a cookie. You could make a, Arduino project with servos that, feed out cookies, like literally have like a servo arm that picks up and, puts a cookie on a plate. It could be a box that is locked and the cookies are inside the box. And to get in the box, you have to use RFID cards or something of the sort. And I think the two things that I would want to sort of do this event for, one is a sense of community, because the electronics community is a very small niche. We kind of tend to know everyone in it. It's very small. If you go look on r/electronics on Reddit, you'll notice that most of the people there are like the same posters, like the same like 12 people, do 90% of the interaction on there. And so in order to, make a project and publish it, that would be, either photos on a website or a post to Reddit or on a Discord or make a YouTube video or something like that. Then you'll be able to, or, even to share on Blue Sky, I should say. Then that would mean that we could go and reach out to the people in the community and see who's there, right? We get a more visible count of who's in the community. The other thing that would be great is to flex your creativity a little bit like Carl's Pumpkin Jam. You'd be forced to improvise and to make something work. And if you want to push yourself, then you can use this as an opportunity to explore concepts that you've always wanted to learn, but have not learned it yet. And the third thing is to buy nothing. We are quite resourceful people in the electronics, in the maker community in general. And I think there is this thought that stuff needs to be sort of perfect. So you need to order the correct parts for it. But I think just making stuff out of cardboard and tape and, whatever micro you have kicking around, or if you need to put together a circuit with a 555 timer, et cetera, et cetera, I think that would be a good way to push ourselves and sort of rely a little bit less on buying things. Buying things is perfectly fine. I buy things all the time. In fact, maybe I'll talk a little bit later on about my purchases in 2024 since I had to go through them for my taxes. But I think it would be a really nice sort of event to get the community together, get the creative juices flowing, and to inspire each other, because I know that a lot of my projects are inspired by the YouTube videos that I watch. And I always think, damn, it would be really cool if I could make a cool project like so and so did. And this is a good way to kind of spark that inspiration. And I think making an electronics is very broad because it goes into, microcontrollers, it goes into servos, it goes into RC stuff, it goes into 3D printing stuff, it goes into weather stations, it goes into coding, it goes into all sorts of little facets. And I think each of us has our own sort of view on the how to approach a problem. And so it'd be really nice to see the result of such a thing. So I'm thinking maybe about a month long, and maybe we can try to get some sponsors involved. But regardless, I think even if we can't muster any prizes or anything like that, I think it'd be a really good thing for the community in general. Hopefully, my voice isn't too messed up for you guys on the listening end. I do run the podcast through sort of like an audio fixing service. So I hope it's not too bad on your ears. I can hear it breaking up on my end. Hopefully, it's fine on yours. But, anyways, on the subject of that event I was talking about, I think there's something else that I want to attempt personally, which is a 1 day challenge. So this is a little bit inspired by Adam Savage's 1 day builds, where he sets off to spend 1 day building something, right? It's kind of stretched because some 1 day builds are not actually 1 day. And there's a little bit of caveats. But I think I want to do it a little bit differently. I want to do it as a challenge. So if you go in the description of this podcast, whether it be on YouTube or on Spotify or what have you, there is a Google Forms link. And if you want to participate, you go to the Google Forms and you come up with an idea for a project. So this project, you can define it however you want, but if it is chosen, I'll have to sort of be the final arbiter of what the final project looks like, and you'll understand why in a moment. So the idea is we get a whole bunch of suggestions. So maybe, your suggestion is, a cookie flipping robot, just to use as an earlier example. And essentially it goes all into a pool, and then we get a group of volunteers or a volunteer or whatever have you to vet the ideas, remove the ones that are clearly not possible. Like, for example, if it's a spaceship to Mars, not going to happen. Even Elon's not doing that one. But then all the other valid ones would go into a randomizer. And basically, I would pick a day, preferably like a rainy day, that I would do a stream. And the stream would start something like 8 a.m., something like that. And then my volunteer who went through the list and pruned it down, all the silly ones thrown away. And by silly, I mean like the non-doable ones thrown away, like a world peace machine, can't happen. We hit a randomizer. One of the random project ideas come up, and then I have all day, okay, from 8 a.m., let's say to 8 p.m., to complete this project. Now, I can set sort of like whatever completion criteria that I want, but the idea is to make an earnest effort. And, I have until from 8 to 8 on a live stream to complete this project with what I have in stock only. Now I can use, AI to help me. I can use, construction methods, like I can use hot glue and popsicle sticks or whatever. But the thing is, the challenge is to challenge myself to do a project in 1 day, live on stream, in front of everyone. And then my final sort of project, when I'm done with it, I will just then submit it to the audience and see if they are satisfied or not with what I've come up with. So the goal is not to make something extravagant, but I will be able to use, everything at my disposal, including 3D modeling, 3D printing, including, construction glue and popsicle sticks, like I said. I have a welder here. Not sure if I want to weld indoors. I want to do everything on camera. But I have construction methods here. I have Lego and stuff like that. I have gears and all sorts of weird stuff, servos. So use whatever method I feel is correct and do that project. So that cookie flipping machine, it could be as simple as, a motor that has a sensor and it just flips the cookie to outer space or whatever. Or, it can go very gently, underneath, lift it up, flip it around, drop it down. I don't know, right? That's the whole fun of it, is to challenge myself on coding, mechanical design and electronic design and electrical design, and put it all together and just do it all in one day. So I encourage you to go down into the description wherever you're listening to this and fill in the form with ideas. I will not look at the results of that form, but I will have to ask one or multiple volunteers to just delete the ones that are nonsensical. And even, the funny ones, they can stay as long as it's something that I can do with the stuff I have in stock here. I think it's fair game. And I think you'll be surprised because I have quite a big collection of fasteners and glue and tape and all sorts of stuff. I think we can get something pretty reasonable done. In fact, go ahead and go a little bit crazy if you want. If you want me to build an entire RC car from the ground up, I should actually have all the parts I need for that, like including, 3D printing stuff. Don't forget, we have 8 hours. So I'll have to, or sorry, more than 8 hours, 12 hours. So I can just manage my time accordingly. And we're gonna build it. No matter what it is, we're gonna build it. Hopefully it is something that I can test at my workbench. If not, well, I'll have to make a separate video because I am not filming outside of my house. You guys, I love you, but you're a bit too crazy. One thing I will ask though is don't put any suggestions in the comment sections or in, public areas where I am prone to see them. I think the fun is that I won't have any idea what's coming. I don't have any idea of what the potential choices are. The goal is to go in this for me completely blind, and maybe I'll edit it into a main channel video. The goal also will be to stream it on my live streaming channel and possibly on Twitch, multi-stream, because I know that is doable. And yeah, see if we can garner a little bit of excitement. Maybe we can even think of maybe a prize or a punishment, like if I succeed, I can buy myself X, assuming won't have any sponsors for this simple little video. So if I succeed, then I can buy myself X. But if I don't succeed, I have to donate, $200 to the food bank or whatever it may be. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, but please, for the project suggestions for this 1 day challenge, please only put those in the Google form, and I will not look at the results of those. Only a volunteer will. Just a quick interruption to talk about this episode's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay has been a long-term sponsor of the channel, and I think they're a good match for my channel because they provide quality PCBs for a reasonable price. You can get boards manufactured up to 100 mils by 100 mils for just $5, including shipping to Canada, $15 US, including shipping to USA, $12 US, which is incredibly cheap for professionally manufactured PCBs. I can personally attest to the quality of these PCBs, and so if you want a circuit immortalized forever, check out PCBWay.com with the link in the description. Now back to the conversation. Moving on, while I still have a little bit of my voice left, I want to talk a little bit about what it cost me to do YouTube in 2024. And I don't want to get into too many specifics because some of these things they get a little obscure, and some of these things need a lot of context. But I do want to talk about a couple of the interesting aspects of doing YouTube. So first and foremost, I do want to say that only for YouTube, so everything, that was fishing related or stuff that I bought for myself personally, or my wife, or my mechanic's job, it totaled to 2,450 Canadian dollars. So that sounds a little inflated. And in fact, I believe it's a little bit higher than last year, than 2023's numbers. But don't forget that $700 of that is my Voron 0.2 3D printer. So that was kind of an expensive purchase, but I think the experience of putting it together on live streams was quite awesome. I have not made a video on it specifically quite yet. So I do need to get that done now that I'm a little bit less busy. But yeah, so $700 was probably my largest purchase from AliExpress in 2024. Actually, no, it was absolutely my largest purchase from AliExpress in 2024. I had something like 15 items that never showed up and that I got refunded for. That is way higher than the typical amount. And I believe it's because in 2024, I think that's when we had the Canada Post strike. So, yes, it didn't affect couriers, which typically stuff from China arriving to Canada comes via courier. However, because Canada Post was on strike, a lot more people were using couriers as well. And I think their systems just got overwhelmed and a lot of stuff went missing. Now, you can argue that I probably didn't have to buy everything that I bought for my YouTubing business, but I think that a lot of the stuff was for PCBWay type projects. And since PCBWay is a sponsor of the show, I kind of have to keep the projects rolling, which is what is my main income on YouTube, which means that I have to pay taxes on that. And so it just makes sense that the items that I buy in order to make those videos that pay me, that they'd be tax deductible. For those of you that don't know, it's not when you do a business write off, first and foremost, you don't get that money back. So let's just give a tangible example. If you brought in $10,000 of money, let's say from YouTube, let's say the AdSense is 10,000. God, I wish my AdSense was that high, but it is not. But let's say you get $10,000 in, and to make those YouTube videos, you spent $5,000. Well, how it works is you don't pay taxes on the $5,000 that you needed to spend in order to make $10,000 total. And so let's say your marginal tax rate, when it's low amounts, when we're talking about a couple $1,000 here in Canada, it's roughly 35%. I have more specific figures, but it gets complicated because we also have provincial taxes, but whatever. Let's just say 35%. And so if you take $10,000 and you multiply that by 0.35, that gives you $3,500 in taxes that you would owe for that 10,000. But because you spent the 5,000 making the videos, now you only have $5,000 to pay taxes on, and multiplying that by 35%, that brings it down to $1,750. So you essentially halved your tax bill. You saved $1,750 essentially, but the issue is you also spent that $5,000. So you're still out that $5,000, and in principle, when you claim 100% of an item, it means that item is low value and it probably won't be of continual use to you. Everything like the Voron 3D printer, for example, you can't claim 100% of that on the year that you purchased it. Well, you can through some accounting loopholes, but you have to be prepared to defend it on an audit. But essentially how it works is it has a rough life value, like a rough lifetime, and you can only claim, 20%. In the case of the Voron, I think it's classified as 20% per year until it's paid off. And so I wasn't actually able to deduct 100% of my business, purchases when it comes to big things like the Voron. They're what we call a capital asset, something that sticks around. But it's not something that I regret at all. It was really like buying a set of adult Lego and putting it together. And in the end, I have a working machine. In fact, it is my most reliable 3D printer, and I'm the one who put it together. I'm not even a trained, qualified anything. I'm the one who put it together. Still needs some tuning, so, stay tuned for that. But that was one of the big things that I purchased, which was, kind of expensive. Some other stuff like a Pixhawk controller, that is going to be for experimentation on sort of autopiloting stuff like my boat or whatever it may be. So that was kind of pricey as well. Also, upgrades to the Elegoo Neptune 4 Max. So this is something you haven't seen on camera. It's very awkward. Elegoo, a little while ago, probably not even in 2024, sent me a 3D printer, and I had to purchase upgrades for it because it was just disintegrating. So I paid $150 for some linear rails, and now it runs a heck of a lot better. So those are kind of the things that you have to maintain your machines, and when you're using your machines to make videos, that's a justifiable expense. If the CRA, basically the Canadian IRS, is listening, this is all fictitious numbers. Go check my filing for the real numbers, just in case I say something wrong. Um, my filings are accurate, so go check those. Another very expensive purchase I did in 2024, and I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but in 2024, I started recording in 4K. In fact, all my videos since I bought this are in 4K 60 frames per second, and that is my camera. I bought a Nikon D780 and a 24 to 120 mil lens. I am a big fan of keeping all electronic contrivances away from my recording process. I have a camera that handles all the camera stuff, and all it needs to do is be a camera. I don't like messing with, making sure my computer is capturing, that I've got separate audio or whatever. I want to press record and just record. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. Just record. And that is what the camera is doing. Now I got really lucky. I bought it used. I bought it on eBay from a Canadian seller, so it didn't have to ship very far. I was afraid of it getting smashed. But I paid $2,200 Canadian for the Nikon D780. And I just sort of needed a little bit of reassurance when I was doing my taxes and tabulating it up. Again, you can't claim it 100%. It has a useful lifespan. So I couldn't deduct that whole 2,200. But I checked on my local classifieds, and I was able to find one, a D780, in roughly the same condition as the one I bought, and it's still more expensive. It's actually three to $400 Canadian more expensive used than what I paid for the one I found. So I'm pretty happy with it, the fact that it was a good deal, and I'm able to shoot in 4K 60 now. In fact, that's a little bit of a trick. I'm actually shooting in 4K 30 frames per second and having my editing software sort of interpolate the frames in between. So I'm exporting at 4K 60, and half the frames are, sort of like interpreted from the other frames. But I just like the fact that the motion is so much smoother at 4K 60, and hopefully you guys appreciate it too. The size of the files are quite a bit larger in 4K 60 than they would be in 4K 30 or even in 1080 60. But it's that extra little bit of quality that I'm liking. I think I get extra clarity, and stuff like the audio is higher quality as well, because 4K videos aren't crushed as much in quality on YouTube. So to me, it makes quite a difference on my recording process. On top of that, the camera is able to capture more light. It has a bigger sensor than the old camera I was using that's getting very long in the tooth. And so I'm really happy with that purchase. Let me know if you guys have noticed the difference or not. Now I just need to step up my content game in order to make it better to compensate for all this stuff. I also want to take this opportunity to say thank you to my Patreon supporters, because At the end of the year, I'm able to check all the support I get from my Patreon patrons, and it's a huge difference. In fact, especially when you convert it to Canadian. I don't want to share the exact number because some people only donate, $2 a month, but those things make a huge difference because not only do you like the content, but you purposely go onto the website, which is difficult. There's some friction there, and you sign up and you send payments every month. I do want to share with you that I paid about $100 in Patreon and processing fees just for the Patreon stuff. So Patreon I feel like it used to have much lower fees, but $100 for the whole year is what I paid in fees. I think that's a bit insane. And on top of that, then that sends it to PayPal, and then PayPal takes fees on top of that. I don't think I totaled my PayPal fees. Actually, I did, but I don't want to say because then you'll know how much money I made off my sponsors and other revenues through PayPal. So that's off the table. However, it is quite a bit. I will say the fees are, if I had a monthly AdSense payment that was equal to what I paid in just PayPal fees, I would be quite happy. Let's just put it that way. It's crazy. On the AdSense side, it seems like 2024 was a good year. Now, it's a little hard for me to judge because when I go into my Creator Studio, I always have the numbers in US dollars. And the reason why I have the numbers in US dollars is because then at the end of the month, when I actually get paid for AdSense, it is actually quite a bit higher than what I was expecting. Because I'm used to the US dollars, Canadian dollars not worth as much. So it was surprisingly good. Next year, my plan is to beat it. And the only way to beat it is to make better videos. And so hopefully I'm going to be doing that. The other thing I have to tell you is AliExpress. AliExpress has been a phenomenal income source. It's less than Patreon, but don't forget, my audience are typically buying objects from, $1 to $10 maximum. There are the odd purchases that are like 30, 60, 80, 100, $200, but for the most part, AliExpress was 700 Canadian dollars of affiliate revenue. So those of you that go out of your way to click my links before you go shopping, and you know who you are, I see you guys in the live, there's a live order report on AliExpress where I can see what is ordered, but not who ordered them. And I see you folks. You guys are really great people. And thank you so much for thinking of me before making your purchases. It makes a big difference. So I shipped, it was thousands of orders, but still I got $700 out of it. So that is really nice. As for Amazon affiliates, quite a bit less. So my audience is more into AliExpress stuff, which is fine. $270 in Amazon affiliate revenue. That's between all the markets. So it'd be Canada, US, and UK are my three biggest ones. And then there's like Italy, France, Germany. The Italy, France, Germany, I never ever got a payout because it's still like under the $10 threshold to send me a gift card. They don't even transfer to my bank, just a gift card. However, the Canadian one comes in gift cards because I typically spend through Amazon anyways. The American one comes as a check, and the British one comes as a gift card. However, I'm like stockpiling them because I have a plan for them at some point, the UK gift card. But over all of that, like everything included, it was $271 Canadian. So again, thank you so much to my audience who takes a look at my stuff, decides to put my affiliate links in their search bar before they do their purchases. You folks are the real ones. If you're curious what the bills are like around here, Ontario, Canada, I can tell you my electricity bill is about $2,400 for the year. Now, the electricity bill is a bit higher than the typical household because I run an electronics YouTube channel. I've got the studio lights going while I'm recording. I have a whole bunch of things plugged into the wall, power supplies, all this kind of stuff. And my PC that does editing. While it's editing, it's sucking down juice. And while it's exporting those 4K 60 files, it also takes a lot of energy. So yeah, not super energy efficient, but there we go. Uh, for the heating, like gas, it is just about $1,000 for the year. My house is old, so it's not as well insulated as it could be. So that will affect that as well. Water is about $600 a year. Um, and then internet, which is expensive. However, I've negotiated it down to a deal which is expiring very soon, but it was $1,000 for gigabit download and gigabit and a half. No, sorry, gigabit upload and gigabit and a half download fiber connection. So yeah, it was about $1,000 for the year. However, that is going to be more than doubling at some point this year. So I need to get on the horn with them and negotiate a better rate. The only problem with that is that there's only one provider here in Canada that deals with fiber, and I can't really threaten to go with another company if I don't get a better deal, because there simply isn't. The other one is cable, and they do gigabit down, which is fine, but it's not the down I want. It's the upload, and they only do 30 megabit upload. So they kind of know that for content creation, there's only really one game in town. And so if asking nicely doesn't get me a better price, I'm going to be stuck going to the competition and paying almost the same amount that as I'm paying now, maybe a little bit more, but getting a lot less. So it's not really something I can negotiate easily, like you could in some circumstances where there's more competition. In Canada, telcos are kind of they do whatever they want, essentially. So you're kind of screwed either way in that case. So all that being said, I think I'm going to have to end this pretty soon. My voice is getting hoarser and hoarser. I'm really sorry about these short episodes. I'm going to reach out. I have about 10 or 12 people that I'm going to reach out to in the next couple days to get another episode recorded. These solo episodes are quite hard on my voice, especially since I am sort of sick these days. And so I will try to get a guest on for the next one so that it's going to be a little bit easier on my voice. And you guys can get back those sort of like hour and 15-minute episodes. I know when I listen to my favorite podcasts and they do short episodes, it's not fun. I really prefer the long form stuff. I want to be entertained for longer. But the issue is I stretch my voice as much as possible. I do what I can, but in the end, it is what it is. If you know someone who wants to come onto the podcast, though, make sure to reach out. I want to talk to anybody that has an interesting point of view in anything, anybody who is into creation of stuff, whether that be coding or electronics or 3D printing or anything that sort of like offers their point of view. Right now, I am the most interested in interviewing someone that works in a makerspace. I really want to get a hold of what the makerspace lifestyle is like, where the funding comes from, how people can help out, those kinds of things. So if you know people, there goes I don't know if you heard that, but my voice is leaving me. If you know people that work in a makerspace, I would really like to get to know them. I'd like to interview them and I'd like to hear their stories. But other than that, anybody is cool in my books. Well, I want to hear their stories and I want to share their stories. So thank you everyone for listening. I should be live streaming not this weekend, but possibly next weekend or even next week, since the demands on my time have severely shrunk, which is nice and not nice at the same time. And you know why, I'm not going to reiterate. And so I'm going to try and catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening, folks.